Hello and welcome to another exclusive interview for Metal for Africa. Today we are focusing on OhGod. We are joined by Danny Harris, the drummer. Welcome on in. How are you doing?
Oh,
Are you
thank you for
comfy?
having me. Yeah, very comfy. Very
Yeah.
comfy. Home office. It's a good place to be.
Awesome. OhGod, probably best described as an amazing instrumental progressive post-rock band, started over a decade ago, toured many countries and played with many big names. So overall, a very experienced band. Has there been any highlights in OhGod's career that you would like to bring up?
Um, yeah, I mean, like releasing an album is always a big highlight. We have only done one full length album. That was 2017, end of 2017, where we've been working on one ever since. So I don't know when that's going to see the light of day, but Oh God is definitely not quite dead yet. And then I would say, like, India being like one of the first international tours we did. That was a really cool experience to have. And then after that, like 2 years later, we ended up going to Europe, and yeah, like just going off of the experience that we had in India, we had so much like better planning involved. Like everyone knew what we had to do, and also the whole support system on that side for the arts is completely different. So that was a quite a very very cool experience to have as well.
Yeah, so overall, very experienced band. But there has been a bit of an absence lately with your last performance being at Ramfest last year. So how does it feel to be performing live again after almost a year?
Like that's part of the, I guess, the growing pains if you have members that move on to other things in life, more important things than an expensive hobby or something, some would call. But yeah, we ended up losing our bassist, the founding member, Mark Wolfrey. He immigrated to Canada, and now we have a new bassist in, and it was a bit of a transition period we all had to go through. And yeah, that was actually not our last show. That was our last festival, and then we had a going away show for him at District. That was the
Oh,
end of September, I believe, last year. Yeah, it was a couple of weeks after the Ramfest thing, and it was quite special because, like, nice intimate venue, and like the turnout was great. We had some cool bands on the lineup as well. India Minor being one of the bands. Very very interesting lineup that we had that night. It was really cool to see all the people pull in just to say farewell to the fluffy bassist person.
yeah. So let's have a quick introduction to all the members. There's you, yourself, Danny on drums,
Yes.
David Houston, the lead guitarist, Stefan Stein, the rhythm guitarist. And as you mentioned, your original bassist left, and you have a new member filling the spot. Would you like to introduce the new bassist and share how they came to join? OhGod.
Yeah, so funny story. Our the bassist who's filling in now, Mark, is Calvin de Swart. He used to play for bands like the Sleepers. He was also part of Arcs and Nesis when they were on the scene. I don't know if you know the band, but they won some Derek's condom competition at some point. Very very technical prog band, and it's been a real pleasure having him on board because he's actually been like our. He's the guy that managed all the tours when we went overseas. He was kind of like our acting band manager, and he knows all the music. He is a bassist, and it was just like an easy fit. We didn't have to go bassist hunting. We didn't have to teach him any of the songs. It just happened to be like, someone else had to be somewhere else in life, and someone else was ready and primed to take over what needed to be taken over from. So that's it's a pretty cool situation to be in. It's like it's hard to lose those kind of things, but it's also very uplifting to know that there are people involved that have been so in so into this whole thing that it doesn't really feel like anything has changed. All these people have put the same amount of effort into this whole thing, and I don't think it's gonna stop. Even if I go, there's gonna be someone else in my place.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been a very smooth transition from bassist to bassist.
Yeah, very much so.
And has the new bassist influence the band's dynamic and sound?
Mm, that's hard to say right now. We've been in rehearsals mostly, but I presume it's going to change a lot of things. Just the way that interpersonal relationships work. There was a specific way that myself and Mark worked with the drum and bass, so it might be different with Calvin. But at the moment, we just been rehearsing. We haven't been writing anything, but I assume that's going to have a major, change that we're going to see and hear. And the rhythm section is something that OhGod kind of focuses on quite a bit when we're writing, just to make it interesting and rhythmically driving, and like it just makes something like nice that people can, have a nice party to.
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned how you are so well experienced in your live aspect, and you've mentioned your album, The Great Silence. So you guys are no strangers to the studio. How do you guys approach your music differently when recording in the studio compared to performing live?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I had to ask that to myself recently, because going through COVID in 2020, that was kind of the year where we were planning to do our next release, and then the world shut down. And that kind of screwed with our way of doing things. We used to always get together in a room and just like, most of the time it's just like warming up, and then the warm up becomes something, and then that something becomes a song, and that song becomes an album. And because we were like locked down, we had to change that quite drastically. And some of the members moved a little further out, like Musenberg. Our lead guitarist Dave is now based in Grayton, so it's become a situation where we're kind of like working offline, and kind of like sending parts to each other, and like it takes a bit longer in that sense, because it's like you have to put an idea down and then send it out and get like a bunch of reverts from your mates. Whereas back in the room, when people are just practicing or like warming up, it's really easy to get that feedback quick, and like you almost get a little bit more of an organic sound, in my opinion, if you do it like that, the way that I feel it's supposed to be done. Yeah.
Awesome. And does the new bassist bring a different energy or style to these recordings so far?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. We are not recording with him at this moment. We're still in rehearsals. This is his breakout show coming in with OhGod. This isn't the last one either. We're working on some other stuff. But yeah, I assume like when we're going to be recording, it's going to be a different vibe. Back when Mark used to be here, it used to be him and I at the end of when all the guitars and drums are recorded. We're sitting here in this fucking room and just like, pumping out that bass, and like I'm explaining to him, what I've been thinking about the bass while I've been playing the drums, and like how I'm recording, how I want to record it, and like, the little nuances that maybe he's missed, or, that anyone missed. It's like when we're practicing and performing, it's not like you're super like tight about those things until you record and you want to capture it the way you want to capture it. Then we have those kind of discussions. So I'm sure that will still be a factor when working with Calvin. But, who knows? Maybe it's something that is just different. Maybe he just picks up on different things, and then it's like, oh, well, whatever I had in my mind is maybe not even worth mentioning. Maybe he's got a better idea of the bass, and maybe he has a good ear for the drums, and he finds something that I can't even think about. So we'll see how that turns out when we get there.
Awesome. And this is your basis, as you mentioned, is a breakout show.
Yes.
For this live performance for Winterfest, how excited are you guys?
Yeah, very, very excited from my personal capacity, at least. This has pretty much been one of the years that I've been the least active with music. And just getting back in that rehearsal room with the guys, bit of a new dynamic there as well. It's mostly been myself, Calvin and Stefan working on the rhythm sections, because Dave's out of town. He joined us this week just to have a full practice. And we had a really tight set, the last one that we played, and it was really nice. It was like you get into a little pocket, and like you just like kind of zone out a bit. Sometimes you get so carried away by the music, you end up playing the wrong parts because you're just enjoying the thing that you're doing. So yeah, that has happened a couple of times. Hopefully, it doesn't happen in Metal for Africa. I'm gonna concentrate on that.
Awesome. So you guys have an amazing album out already, and my personal favorite is Pylons. But now I'm curious on what you are playing at Metal for Africa. Do you have a potential sneak peek that we can see for your set list?
Well, I can say a couple of things about the set list. So we're not playing the set list we usually play. We actually realized we've been swapping some songs around here and there, but we always had like a banger to start off with. We're not starting off with a banger. Like we're starting off a little bit slower this time around, and we're building the set so it's a high energy ending. So there's unfortunately not going to be any new music. I think it's a good thing so people could just like get back into what OhGod was and introduce the new member and like play the show and get everyone on board again. And then taking from there, we later in the year we'll have some other things where we'll bring in the new things one by one.
Sure. Are there any tracks you are particularly excited to play?
Yeah, for matter of fact, Pylons is one of my favorites to play. The one that I don't really want to play is Kepler because it's like so fucking long, 7.5 minutes, and it's like in this set it's like right at the fucking end. So like a quarter of this set is just the one song. So that's yeah, not I love that song. It's just quite long.
Yeah, that will be the song everyone can hear in the background at the moment of this interview.
Awesome.
Now, your genre that OhGod is in, instrumental, progressive, post-rock, is known for its evolving soundscapes. How has your music evolved over the past year, especially with the new lineup?
Yeah, so I mean, initially when we recorded our first EP, Forest Feuds, I had a mate working at Cape Audio College. We ended up getting that space for free because he's working there, and we recorded the 4 tracks, multi-channel live recording, just the 4 of us, just basically pumping it out live. And that was one approach. And then when we went to, the Great Silence, it was a whole different approach to the recording process. It was like we were kind of writing and everything, and we were kind of still writing by the time we were recording. And I remember at some point, like I was sitting there. Now all the guitars and stuff we produced at home and we recorded at home. Everything was done. We have 3 qualified sound engineers in the band, so doing that, with a Kemper or something is quite easy. But the drums are always a difficult thing to record. We happened to get like the space at Sound and Motion Studios. It's this old church space in Tokai, and Fuzzy was so nice to just like give us the space for a weekend. We ended up recording all the drums there. We got the drum sponsor through Paul Bothner. They gave us a Mapex Saturn kit and like the Zilchin K Custom Dark series all around. It was a beautiful set and it sounded great. But even during that time, it's like I've been writing a lot of the drums on my AS here on like an electric kit at home, and then like we get there and there's like 19 more mics pointing at me, and then like Dave's like, maybe we should try something different. Like, not the best time to ask for something different when you're, ready to record.
Yeah, but coming back to this live performance around the corner, are there any new elements or surprises you've incorporated into your performance?
Not that I can think of specifically. I think at the moment it's just like focusing on onboarding this person. Also, Mark leaving has left quite a huge gap. He used to run quite a bit of our socials and stuff, even our emails, as you've noticed. Like, he was our online guy, and I've been pretty bad at taking over, but I'm trying. It's definitely a huge loss for OhGod, and that's the sad part of the whole situation. So, in this situation, we're like a little bit thin spread. It's like just making sure we put out a solid show and get people to understand that, okay, this is going to be the basis going forward. Also dealing with some merchandise that we need to print and like a whole bunch of things that we're moving around so we can just like function as normal. It's quite a process, like replacing someone irreplaceable.
Oh, that does sound quite hectic. But now, after Metal for Africa, what is next? What is do you have any future projects or new material you're working on?
Yeah, so yeah, like I mentioned earlier, like since 2020, we've already basically had an album like ready. It's just like all the parts are there. It's just a matter of time and effort. Um, and then like when Mark moved away, now Calvin's here. It's like I don't know what the dynamic there is going to be. Like, are we gonna revisit a lot of things? Are we gonna rewrite? We recently, like not recently, about a year ago, we released a song called Yuska, um, and that was kind of like supposed to lead us on to the next thing, and then like the big move happened and the changes in life, which is fine. But yeah, there is definitely some things happening later in the year. We're busy working with some other interesting bands like the Kings of Improv and Savage Lucy. We've done Let There Be Prog in the past, so we're basically trying to get that together again, do another show where it's just like prog music. And we're doing it in Joburg and in Cape Town. We're just finalizing all the details there.
Oh, nice. Do you have, apart from our more local South Africa scene, do you have any plans for touring in the future?
It's funny you should ask. I actually spoke to the guys this last week when everyone was at rehearsal, and I told them, sure, we need to go hit North America just for like 2 or 3 weeks and just like tour there and see what it could be if we were like able to be there. Like, what kind of response would we get? Because I was taking over and seeing like a bunch of the streaming stuff, and I saw like a lot of our streams are coming out of the US. So like I just had the idea like, let's go check out North America. So I'm working on that. I'm gonna get them to agree.
That sounds really exciting. And so now more into the far future, where do you guys see yourselves heading in over a year or so? And what are your main goals and aspirations moving forward?
Well, I think the main goal out of all of this is just to basically enjoy being a part of something with your mates. Of course, we would want to have like great success, but at this time, we've had great success in other parts of our lives, and this is something we're just doing to soothe the soul, and like making music and interacting with people on that level is really cool, and getting the interaction from the people, that is one of the most valuable things I've been a part of. And it's like you can't really describe what it feels like when you do that. When you're performing live, you don't really notice the people are there until you do. And then when you do, and they're not like throwing water at you and bottles and shit, then you're like, okay, well, I'm not that terrible at what I'm doing then.
You've actually brought up something interesting. Are there any... What are your most memorable moments at shows? Good or bad?
I guess you can find both. But if anyone asks any sort of question in that regard, I always just, my mind just goes back to India, because it was like so foreign to us. We had such a huge culture shock when we were there. There were some interesting moments in India where it was just like a deep connection between the people that were on that tour together. Everyone got a little fucked up by whatever happens in India. I had like a scar that I just scraped on the wall, and it got infected. So by the time I got to Africa again, I was wondering like, shit, am I gonna lose my arm because of this scrape? when Dave actually stayed there for an extra couple of weeks, and when we left the morning, he had like an eye infection. He had his eye patch on and stuff. India fucked us up. Yeah.
Wow. What have any new inspirations emerged lately, and what artists or bands have been your biggest influences lately?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I've been I've been not really listening to a lot of metal and stuff, and I've actually explored quite a bit of like the sound design field of things. So, and I mean, like that's also been a part of our production, pretty much, yeah, since the Great Silence. It's quite important for us, that part of the work. So I think we'll end up like exploring that a little bit more, just like how to design the sound between the songs and to tie the whole album together if we're putting another one out. But there's a lot of like production value I think that we can add to a next release without compromising the acoustic value that we bring, and that will always be the backbone of everything. And we're not going to turn into like a dance band, but you know, we've always put in some strings or some elements that are technically an electronic element. We have, yeah, like I think that's the main focus, is just like to take an idea of what you have and just express it as good as you can. And I think, like, you know, we've got a great team of people doing that. And I don't like see us like, if we change, it's because we change, like any human. So I don't think that's a bad thing.
That's quite deep. Metal for Africa WinterFest 2024 happening on the 27th of July. If you have not gotten your tickets yet, well, online sales have ended, but there's still a limited amount of the doors, so get there early. Before we sign off, do you have any messages for your fans who've supported you through this lineup change and eagerly waiting your return?
Do have a message, yes. Would love to see all of the friendly faces again. It'd be really cool to see everyone. The support has been amazing. It's always been amazing, and like we couldn't have done anything that we have done without the support of the people that we had. So we're hoping to keep on, you know, putting back into our community in that sense, and we'll see you all at Winterfest.
Yeah, thank you, Danny, very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure. Come through to Metal for Africa to see OhGod live at 7 p.m. Check the links below for more info on OhGod and their work. Cheers, and I'll see you on the 27th for a place of friendship and metal.